Hello and welcome to this, which is the last stage of our hero's journey, and looking at the example that I'm using, Star Wars 4 A New Hope, and looking at the breakdown of the narrative that Joseph Campbell put together in his writings from 1949, and how that relates to narrative structure and how we can put together a story and a journey ourselves today. So we are at the last stage of our hero's journey. Let's have a quick reminder of where we are up to. So, sorry, just present that for you. So we've looked at this all the way through, and we're going to go through the whole of this quote now. So, a hero ventures forth from the world of common day. So we meet our hero in his ordinary world into a region of supernatural wonder, of fabulous forces. He gets this call to action, and he's not sure whether he should take that call up or whether he should go through. He meets a mentor that's going to help him with that, and along the way he will meet allies, and he will come across tests and enemies that will push him all the way. Into a region of supernatural wonder, fabulous forces are there encountered, and a decisive victory is won. The hero comes back from this mysterious adventure with the power to bestow boons on his fellow man. So he learns from his journey, he improves himself, and he can bring back to his ordinary world, in whatever form that takes in the future, new information, new knowledge, new power, as the quote says, that he can share with his fellow man. All right. So we've looked at Star Wars being our example. We've gone through the call to adventure in part 1 and looking at ordinary world, call to adventure, and the refusal. We've looked at the initiation stage with his mentor and his helper, crossing the threshold of that story and of that narrative, and then looking at the test that he's going to come across, and the allies and the enemies that he's going to face with that. And then with last video we've looked at the transformation of his through his journey, in kind of the approach to the inmost cave, the ordeal that he might need to go through, and then the reward that he gets from that ordeal. So we've looked at those 3 stages already, and we've got the final stage to go through now. So we are looking at the road back and our hero's return. Now, I've said there's been some crossover in different kind of elements of this, and sometimes you've got elements of the Monomyth and the hero's journey running in tandem with our example. Remembering that I'm using Star Wars 4 A New Hope as my example as we go through. So we have got up to... I'm going to buzz through here. If you've not seen these, then you need to go back and look at the previous videos that are in this series, and then I go through each of those sections as you've gone through. So if you've randomly jumped on this video, just check back on the channel and you'll be able to see all the others to make sure it makes sense. So we are up to the road back for our hero. So Luke Skywalker has just rescued the princess. He has just escaped from the Death Star. He's got the plans in the droid that can destroy it, but he has lost his mentor in Obi-Wan Kenobi, who has been killed in that ordeal, and now he's trying to get to grips with where his journey continues. So we're on the road back. This stage in the hero's journey represents a reverse echo of the call to adventure, in which the hero had to cross the first threshold. Now he must return home. His job is done, essentially, with his reward, but this time the anticipation of danger is replaced with that of acclaim and perhaps vindication, absolution, or even exoneration. So he's got the reward, he's got all of this praise, he's rescued the princess, he's coming back with a droid, his bit of the journey is done. He's not a military man, he's not a strategic genius, he's a farm boy that's just got caught up in this, and he's done his bit. But the hero's journey is not yet over, and he may still need one last push back into the ordinary world. The moment before the hero finally commits to the last day of his journey may be a moment in which he must choose between his own personal objective and that of a higher cause. In Star Wars, there's a moment where you've got a conversation between Luke Skywalker, our hero, and Han Solo, one of his allies that he's met along the way. And Han Solo offers him the chance to go with him. Han Solo is a smuggler, is a mercenary in some sense, that he kind of will do the job for money, for cash, as he goes through. He's rescued the princess with Luke, and he's got his reward, and he's going to be on his way now, because he doesn't want part of this battle and this war that's going on. He wants to kind of get out of Dodge before anything bad happens. And he has this conversation with Luke where he invites him along the way, so that Luke could essentially then take up the mantle of a new ordinary world with Han Solo and with Chewie, and escape the war that they found themselves kind of caught up in. So we see that our hero has a moment of where he could go back, or he could look at that higher cause, and no prizes for guessing really that Luke takes on that higher cause, says no, I'm going to see this through, I'm going to see what is the next kind of stage of this journey. So we have got this road back almost. Their job of rescuing the princess and getting off the station and getting the plans back is done. So we've got a journey back to the rebels and to relative safety in that respect. But we've now got a new stage where we're moving forward, and we've got a new ordeal. I said before in the previous video that we might have more than one ordeal. So we've now got this big strategic action coming forward with the battle against the Death Star, and whether or not they can destroy this big space station that the Empire that's kind of oppressing the galaxy have created. Let's see where we go back. Millennium Falcon just parked up there where they had that conversation, and where all of that kind of comes to life. So next stage, the resurrection. This is the climax in which the hero must have his final and most dangerous encounter with death. The final battle also represents something far greater than the hero's own existence, with its outcome having far-reaching consequences to his ordinary world and the lives of those he's left behind. Okay, we've got a perfect example there of how kind of a theoretical element from our hero's journey can be transposed into a real-world example in Star Wars. This is the climax. So this final is more dangerous than he's ever done. So Luke is kind of dropped into one of the spaceships called an X-Wing. He knows how to fly. He's a pilot. He's kind of done that with his farming kind of work. But now he is part of this army, this military rebellion that is moving forward to destroy the Death Star. It represents something far greater than the hero's own existence. He is just a part to play in this big overarching plan to stop the Empire imposing their will on the galaxy as a whole. So we see where kind of his part is now expanding to this huge kind of moment and has those far-reaching consequences throughout. Back to this. If he fails, others will suffer, and this not only places more weight upon his shoulders, but in a movie grips the audiences so that they too feel part of the conflict and share the hero's hopes, fears and trepidation. Ultimately, the hero will succeed, destroy his enemy, and emerge from battle cleansed and reborn. Small spoilers, but you know, this is the hero's journey. We're not kind of changing anything too much, so the outcome is hopefully a little bit obvious. All right, so we are taken along for the ride. We have been with him from the start, where his was this farm boy in our story with Star Wars that we're using as an example. He's kind of stumbled across this call to action. He's then met this mentor that's developed his understanding of what's going on. He's then had this ordeal that he's had to go through with some allies that he's met along the way, battling against these enemies that he's pitted against. And now he's got that reward in terms of rescuing the princess and getting out of that safely. But now we've got this second part with this resurrection of his role in the whole story and where that might come together. And we've gone along with all of that, so we are taken up into this story as well. We're with him in the cockpit of his X-Wing as he's flying around the Death Star, trying to destroy it, trying to work out what's going on. This is a scene where they're putting together their plan and their strategy of how they're going to destroy the Death Star, and Luke is in the crowd there, now part of this greater calling. So he's had that first call to action to rescue the princess, to save her, and now he's part of something bigger, something more, that resurrection of his standing within our narrative. Like I say, you saw it in there that we've got there. where are we? Ultimately, last sentence, the hero will succeed, destroy his enemy, and emerge from battle cleansed and reborn. So Luke has been changed and transformed from who we met at the start, through meeting Obi-Wan and understanding the powers of the Force and his abilities and how that develops. He is the one to take the final shot that will destroy the Death Star. You can see the Millennium Falcon in there as well. And if you didn't know, if you've not seen it, then I mentioned before that Han Solo was going to kind of nip off somewhere else and not be part of the battle. We've got that resurrection of his character as well, because right at the last stage he comes in and helps Luke to destroy the Death Star by kind of clearing out the enemies that are tracking him at the pivotal moment within our story, and we with Luke kind of are there. We see the joy of kind of once he's cleared to take that shot, he uses the Force, what he's learnt from Obi-Wan, his mentor, to take that final shot, to hit the target and to destroy the Death Star. So he's got the resurrection of his character and his understanding as he's gone through. All right. And our last part of our story and our hero's journey is return with the Elixir. Okay, so this is the final stage of the hero's journey in which he returns home to his ordinary world, a changed man. He will have grown as a person, learned many things, faced many terrible dangers and even death, but now looks forward to the start of a new life. His return may bring fresh hope to those he left behind, a direct solution to their problems, or perhaps a new perspective for everyone to consider. The final reward that he obtains may be literal or metaphoric. It could be a cause for celebration, self-realization, or an end to strife, but whatever it is, it represents three things: change, success, and proof of his journey. The return home also signals the need for resolution for the story's other key players. The hero's doubters will be ostracized, his enemies punished, and his allies rewarded. Ultimately, the hero will return to where he started, but things will clearly never be the same again. Now, Star Wars has a little bit of a kind of a slight kind of different outlook on this. We don't see Luke go all the way back to his home, because we learn kind of early on in the story that gets destroyed, and he can't go back to his ordinary world that we saw at the start. He goes back to a new ordinary. So he has stopped this evil empire oppressing the galaxy within kind of this setup of the story. That part of his journey is done, and his ordinary world, he goes back to knowing that isn't a problem anymore, and he has kind of won the day in that. We've got a few things that we can go at. It could be a cause for celebration. The final scene of Star Wars is an awards ceremony where they are rewarded. He and Han Solo are awarded and given a medal for their part in the journey and destroying that from his new home and his new ordinary world within kind of the Rebel Alliance that has kind of won the day. He's got this self-realization. We see a new outfit for Luke in this part. So far we've seen him in kind of only two outfits really. There's a third one, but he only wears it for a brief time. He's kind of in these kind of white robes, if you like, for most of it. He wears his fighter's uniform when he's in the X-Wing and the final stages, and that's about it. In this stage we see him in this gold jacket. He's had his hair done, he's had a wash and everything like that, and it's that self-realization that he is now a new person, and he is now a different person and a different hero, a different character from where we started and met him in the ordinary world at the very start of the hero's journey. There is an end to strife. So the Empire is destroyed at this stage. Their job is done. The oppression of the galaxy is lifted. Okay, so you've got those elements within there, representing three things: change, success, and proof of his journey. He has changed in himself. He has success in the fact that he has won the day and saved the day, and proof of his journey. He was right to take up the call. He was right to go with Obi-Wan and to rescue the princess. And when you go back all the way and look at that moment where he had the refusal of the call, was it right for him? He's just a farmer. Can he do anything? Then yes, it's proof of his journey, proof that he was right to take up the call and to go through the ordeals, to pick up the rewards, to look at all of and to travel through all of the different stages of the narrative that we've looked at. And we can see there the hero's doubters will be ostracized, his enemies punished, and his allies rewarded. So Han Solo is rewarded with him at the same time, because if it not for him, Luke would have been kind of destroyed in his ship. So there is kind of an alliance there. Its enemies are punished. The Death Star was destroyed. Heroes' doubters will be ostracized. We don't have many doubters of the hero in this. Probably the main one. We all go back to his uncle, who wasn't sure whether or not he should kind of worry about this message that he'd found in his joys, but he met an unfortunate end. So he's not really ostracized, but he's removed from the story, if you like. And ultimately our hero returned to where he started, but things will clearly never be the same again. So he goes back to that kind of moment of safety and that period of safety. The Empire is gone, and he can rest and kind of relax a little bit, if you like. But he'll never be the same again. He's now no longer that farm boy. He is now part of this Rebel Alliance. He is part of this group of people that are going to ensure that the galaxy is safe and the Empire can't return. I'm not going to tell you the rest of the trilogy or the second trilogy or the previous trilogy. You can watch those yourself. But for this moment in time, for this one movie, we've gone through all of the different stages of Joseph Campbell's hero's journey narrative, or the Monomyth, and looked at it as we've gone through. There is the award ceremony. Sorry, I forgot to go to the picture. So you can see that that reward kind of moment of the whole story in there. And there's a different outfit that Luke's wearing. Very different, very kind of different colours and colourways and elements like that visually as well, for when we're watching something where it's a movie that's on screen as you go through. All right, so I think that's it. Oh, no, I put it at the end. Excellent. Right, so we've looked at all of these different stages. Part 1, remember, was our call to the adventure, and the 3 stages that we looked at in there: the ordinary world, the call itself to adventure, and the refusal of that call. Part 2, we looked at the initiation, the mentor, the helper, their role in the narrative, crossing the threshold and really taking up that call, and then the tests, the allies and the enemies that he was going to come across in his journey. We then have the approach to the inmost cave, and the ordeal and the reward. And like I said before, with Star Wars in that example, you've got 2 big ordeals that you can pick up out on. You've got the one where he rescues the princess, and then you've got the final battle later on. You've got the road back, and our hero's return. Atonement is the phrase used in the infographics on the screen. I think I used resurrection. I need to remind myself now. I did use resurrection. Okay, so the resurrection is I think I prefer that term because he's kind of reborn into the story again. He's kind of completed this one stage, but then he's reborn into the story again, which is where we pick up our hero again, and then the return. That final oppression, that final ordeal is sorted, is done, is finished, and he can return and comes back to a ordinary world again. It might be a slightly different ordinary world like it is in Star Wars, or it might be, if you take, for instance, The Hobbit, Lord of the Rings, he comes back to the Shire. So he actually comes physically back to the ordinary world that he left. I think that's The Hobbit, if I remember rightly. So he comes back to that actual same place. So it can work either way. So there you have it. That is the hero's journey and the Monomyth, broken down for you into a few different videos. Remember, you should be using this to put together your narrative and your story in the choose your own adventure genre, if you like, using this site inklewriter.com. Go through the tutorial, make sure you sign in so that you can save your pieces really nice and easily. It's web based, so you should be able to access it in whatever device you've got at this time, and go through using the Monomyth and the hero's journey as some structure for you as you put together your story and your adventure itself. Really looking forward to seeing what you come up with. Remember, it can be between about 1,000 and 2,000 words. That should be more than enough to give you to put together a nice story that works. And like I say, if you go over that, then that's absolutely fine. Don't worry too much. I'm not going to put an uppermost limit on it. Just remember, the longer you make it, the longer it's going to take me to read it and to go through it for you. But we've all got a bit of time at this moment in time, shall we say. Right, that is it for this series. Next week we'll be looking at some different bits and pieces, so keep an eye on the channel, keep an eye on your emails. Remember to let us know if you've got any concerns or any worries, and we'll get back to you as soon as you can. Alright, that is it for our hero's journey.